Hello everyone, today I have prepared just for you this checkmate in 2 moves, and we need to find the right combination how to checkmate the black king in a corner with the 2 rooks and a queen. Obviously we have a huge material advantage, but the checkmate is not that easy as it looks. First move which I were calculating were definitely the checks. For example, rooks takes rooks and king recaptures, then the following moves probably gonna be rook takes rooks and again king recaptures the rook, but now we ended up in winning position, but definitely not checkmate in 2. So what's gonna happen if we decide to take the second rook, because it looks way more promising. Now the king's gonna recapture the rook as well, and we can definitely take his second rook, but what is way better is to deliver him check with the queen and one more check with the queen, and if he decides to go back to h7, now we can give him the checkmate. But if you are calculating correctly with me, it's checkmate in 4 moves, and that's definitely not what we are looking for. Now when we know the either of capture with the rooks doesn't work, we have to focus on the other moves which are remaining. My another idea was probably to protect the rook, because I was hoping that he's gonna take my rook, and now I am able to checkmate the king in 2 moves. But the problem is that the opponent is not gonna give us this trade, but he's gonna give us check instead. And yes, still it's winning, but not that great as it was few moves ago. I mean, something similar works if we decide to protect the second rook. Again, there is a check with a black rook, and we are unable to deliver the checkmate in 2 moves. Let's focus on our last 2 pieces. One of them is king, but the second one is queen, and the queen is the crucial piece in such a position. For example, one of the moves might be queen e4 to attack the rook, and we are immediately threatening checkmate. And if our opponent decides to take our rook, we can checkmate him in 2, as I was describing in a previous variation with that rook. But the only little problem is that now he is not letting us checkmate him. For example, let's say he decides to push the pawn, now we are able to deliver checkmate with a queen. He's not definitely going for such a moves. But the little idea is rook h6. And the problem might be that if we recapture the rook, now the pawn can recapture it back, and it's already the second move which we have played, and we are kind of far away from checkmate our opponent. Another queen move I was thinking about in the beginning was something like queen d1 or queen g1, with the same idea of making him to capture our rook and then checkmate him. But now he can decide whether he wants to take the rook on a8 or again stop the checkmate with the rook h6. And now I'm about to tell you the winning segments. So if you have find a move on your own, let me know in the comments, go down there and click on a sub, and let's look at the solution together. The clever move with the queen is not to place it on g1 or e4, but to keep the queen on this diagonal so the pawn can't move, and in the same time we want to protect both of the rooks. And yeah, you're right, the move is queen a1. Now if he decides to take either of the rook, it's gonna end up in a checkmate. Just look at this, he's taking our rook on a8, we recapture with the queen, it's checkmate in 2. If he decides to take our other rook, it's again checkmate in 2. So what might be other possibilities? I mean, move the rook doesn't work logically, because it's just free rook with a checkmate in 2 moves. And do you know why this block doesn't work? As we were talking about it before, that he can place the rook on h6 when it's protected with a pawn. The point is, when the pawn is in a pin, he is unable to recapture the rook, so the rook takes h6 is checkmate again. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.